Welcome everybody to this Data for Good Civic Tech YYC meetup. We're thrilled to have 4 social good startups with us this evening to tell us their stories of passion and pain about the great work that they're doing in the community. And we're excited to have all of you with us as well. So before we get started with the presentations, just a few comments on the groups that tonight. So Civic Tech Calgary. We are part of a global movement around civic tech, and just really the use of technology for public good. And in a bit more detail, the use of technology, data, and design to address the challenges that citizens and governments are facing, as well as to pursue opportunities for citizen engagement and more effective services. So we really consider civic tech to be an innovation space, pulling together a number of sectors across Calgary. So whether it's citizens and government and civil society and the public sector facing community challenges and digital service challenges, all of these together. So what we do is we work on projects. All of our members, they come up with great ideas, come to us and launch projects to try to help make Calgary a better place. We've been around since June of 2017. We're organized through Meetup with over 770 members and still growing. So tell your friends and associates. Typically, our meetups are on the second Tuesday of the month. So this is actually a Civic Tech meetup day of the month. And you can sign up through Meetup. We also have a website at civictechyyc.ca. And of course, you can spread the word on Twitter at civictechyyc. So the other organizing group that's involved is Data for Good. Data for Good, we're a passionate group of volunteers that use our skills and interest and passion for data to help make society better. We work with nonprofit and social organizations, partnering up with them to try to help them to use data, to use the power of data to leverage their impact in the community. So we're actually a chapter, one of 9 chapters of a Data for Good not-for-profit organization across the country. And we're always looking to expand to other cities and communities as well. We've been around since 2013 and approaching 2,000 members on Meetup. We work with nonprofit organizations in a number of different ways. We typically, in better times, we would have a face-to-face 3-day datathon, Friday night, all day Saturday, and a Sunday morning. And these have been great events. We've partnered with Distress Center, the Women's Emergency Shelter, the Calgary Foundation, Calgary Arts Development. This year we're partnered with Calgary Homeless Foundation. So we'll find a way this year to probably do a virtual datathon, maybe in the first quarter of the year. And hopefully by the middle of the year, maybe we can have a face-to-face datathon as well. But we also work with smaller organizations that have smaller challenges and bring them into our meetups. They talk about the challenges and what they're trying to do with data. And we get groups of volunteers to help out. And they coalesce and work with those organizations, for a couple weeks, couple months, a year, whatever it takes to help them out. Data for Good meetups are typically on the 4th Thursday of the month. And again, there's our information on Meetup, our Twitter handle, and we have a national website as well. So really, what we're trying to do, both with Civic Tech, and with Data for Good, is to really provide opportunities, right? To be a connector, to provide all of us together who are part of the sort of the tech ecosystem that have an interest in data and technology, to make connections, right? To make connections to nonprofit organizations that are doing great work, to make connections to community organizations, to make connections to startups, like we're doing this evening, right? So one thing to really be focused in on this evening, as the startups are going through their amazing, innovative work that they're doing, they're going to put out requests for help. What their call to actions are. So please be aware of what the asks are, and if you're interested, each of the presentations, the folks will have contact information. So if you're interested in helping out, use that contact information, give them a ping, tell them who you are, what your skill sets are, and how you want to help out. So without further ado, I'll call on Kyle to start sharing your screen and take it away for your 15 minutes of fame, to tell us about your startup.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, it's good.
Okay, right on, right on. So, hi, good evening. Thanks for sharing your time with me tonight. My name is Kyle Wadstein, and tonight we're going to explore giving circles and why I feel they're a very underutilized system for problem solving and innovating, both locally and internationally. So to frame that up, we'll start by looking at a question. And that question is, what is the biggest problem on Earth? And in order to figure that out, we need to try and figure out where it is exactly we're trying to get to. And that's a place I call the best possible future. And I mean, that's going to look different for everybody. But if you look at the democratizing effects of technology, it looks like things are going to be a lot more cooperative and a lot more collaborative. And by that, I just mean that we're going to be sharing more resources, and we're going to be sharing our ideas. And we're going to have systems to do this at scale. So our story begins tonight in Australia. We're on April 29th of this year. 220 good people got together, and they raised $188,000 in about an hour for 3 very well-deserving nonprofits. And this organization that did this was the Funding Network, which is a giving circle. A giving circle is exactly what it sounds like. It's just a group of people who get together and pool their money together and then decide collectively where that money should be given to. And thankfully, that's the Aussie case isn't an isolated scenario. And we actually have these here in Canada, and the most common of which is the 100 Who Care. And it's a group of 100 men, women, or children who each pitch in $100 and then decide collectively where that money should go to. So there's about, well, one study I found said that between 2007 and 2017, the number of giving circles in the US had tripled. And now there's currently about 300 in Canada. So a bit about how I got here, my giving circle story, as it were, started back in 2007 when I first heard about the Virgin Carbon Challenge. And to put things in perspective, I was literally burning fossil fuels for a living at the time. So not your typical environmentalist, I guess. But it struck me that, like, why is it always just one guy or organization who's coughing up a whole bunch of money to figure out these kinds of problems? Like, this is all of our problems. So like, what if instead like a bunch of us got together and pitched in $1? and we could get a whole bunch of people, as many as possible, and we could give it to the best people and ideas that we can possibly find. And we could do it over and over again, and we could solve different problems along the way and find different and better organizations as we go. And I call this democratic crowdfunding. I didn't know what a giving circle was. And so about 2016, I decided to try and build this thing. And I call it Public Alchemy, which just means that together we can turn things of common value, like money and ideas, into things of tremendous value. And so I taught myself a bit about coding, and then I built a dummy version. Then I ended up building an app out of WordPress, which was fully functional. And as is the case with many new startups, when I released it, as it turned out, nobody really cared. And so I basically spent the last 2 years retooling so that when the opportunity came again, I would have the skills necessary to move forward. And thankfully that opportunity came this October in the form of a self-employment training program here in Red Deer called BusinessWorks. And I have some excellent coaches, and I have a full strategy to move forward in the new year. So what exactly am I talking about here? What problem am I talking about? So there's so many things going on in the world right now. That we really need a way to kind of reframe these problems. And the way I look at it is, like, if somebody gives me a list of things to do, like I write it down and then I start with one. So the alternative is kind of like if JFK were to say to Wernher von Braun, like, I want you to go to the moon, but while you're at it, I want you to end poverty and hunger, et cetera, et cetera. So my theory is that instead of having groups of isolated people around the world working on a whole bunch of problems all at the same time, what if you had a great big group of people of all kinds working on just one problem and crowdsourcing solutions along the way? So one way that we could do this would be a Giving Circle web portal, which combines a social innovation platform and a funding portal. There's a couple websites that exist like this. This Grapevine, the Giving Circle portal, and they, since their inception in March this year, they've already raised $1.5 million. But what I think we need to do differently is, instead of just supporting nonprofits like the previous two examples did, we would be using or supporting technology and new businesses. And the cities could use this to support community projects. And once you get enough groups, you could connect them all together. Now, a good Giving Circle platform should have cheese on it. It should be cheap. It should be cheap for anybody to use. It should be easy and entertaining. The success of the the groups should be evident, and it should be engaging, so people want to keep using it. So here's just a dummy I made of what it could be like for Public Alchemy. People could submit videos and we could go about voting on them, and it would all just be video based. So I apologize for the example I'm about to present to you. It was not my intention to do this when I started talking to you guys, but it's just a very good example. So what if Data for Good, with its just about 2,000 members, were each to pitch in $2? That would be about $3,900 a month, and it would all go towards good. And the types of people who would get this funding would be people like Alice Lam and Hyder. And in the hands of good people like this, you're basically amplifying the value of your dollars, and it could be used for marketing or legal costs or whatever they need. And to put that in as a comparison, $2 for this group compared to $100 in 100 Who Care is about $1,700 more every quarter for good. So another example would be, as fairly liberal to think that this many Calgarians would want to do it, but if 66% of Calgarians gave $1, that's about $1 million every month, and it would kind of become like a game. And each month it would be sort of an event where you would collectively find the best of the best in Calgary, essentially. And there's a lot of startups in Calgary. According to Start Alberta, there's about 413. One of these startups is called Carbon Upcycling, who's taking part in a scenario almost identical to the one I'm describing right now, and that's the X Prize. So they're competing for the Carbon X Prize, which they're trying to figure out how to turn carbon into usable products. They're going to give $20 million to whoever can do it the best. So what if the X Prize was a giving circle instead of a foundation? So what if you had $1 million every month? You could, instead of giving to one organization, you could give to one new organization every month for prototyping. And over the course of the X Prize, which is 5 years, you'd be given to 60 teams. So to come back to our question, what is the biggest problem? Like, there's a lot of problems, but we're really good at solving these things. Like, this is kind of a cliched example, but like when we put our minds to things, we can accomplish really big goals. So I believe that our biggest problem is this, like, it's communication, because there's about 8 billion of us right now, just about, and we're all trying to live our best lives, which is great, and that's what this is about. But if we're to keep living this way, we really need to learn how to collaborate and cooperate on a much bigger scale, so we can solve some of these problems. And COVID's a pretty good example of that, or a proof of that point. So this way we can crowdsource ideas and resources to solve problems, and we can change the goal as need be. So we can learn to harness the collective intelligence of a whole bunch of people versus one. I believe that no problem really stands a chance. So thank you for hearing me out tonight. My name is Kyle Wadstein, and if you really believe in this idea, if you really don't like this idea and have a good reason why, or if you would like to be a beta tester, or if you're a developer and have app building experience or have released something like this before, please, I will leave my email and whatnot in the chat bar. So thank you very much.
Great, thanks so much, Kyle. Yeah, so just as a reminder, all the presentations, a copy of the presentations will be available tomorrow through a link on our Meetup site in the comments section. So all the contact information for everybody will be within those PowerPoints. All right, great way to kick us off. Now we'll have another exciting presentation, this time from Wumi. So take it away. Please introduce yourself and your project.
Thank you very much, Jeff. Good evening, everybody. I am happy to be here. Tonight, I want to talk about Rescale Calgary, where Calgary meets Maria. Before we go on, let's meet Maria. So Maria is an economic immigrant. And what this means is that she had been vetted before coming to Canada. She had been vetted for professionalism, her skills and experience. Number 2, she's been vetted for her health and fitness. And then number 3, she's been vetted for English or French language proficiency. So she's good to go, ready to hit the ground running. She's 34. She has a degree in civil engineering with lots of years of industry experience. And just look at her. She's ready to take on the world, ready to bring her own experience to make Calgary a better place. Now let's meet Calgary. Recovering economy, being hit badly by the downturn in oil and gas. And now Calgary is regrouping, bringing the economy back together again, investing in a digital future, and trying to attract and retain top talent from all around the world. In fact, for Calgary in the new economy to succeed, It's counting on that sustained influx of talent, immigrant talent from across the world. According to Calgary Economic Development, this is it. For Calgary to work, we need skilled immigrants. Like, it's just the way it is. So you want to think about that, like, okay, so we have the Marias, we have Calgary in need. That's like a match made in heaven, isn't it? Except that's not how it works. There is a great disconnect here. You see, Maria doesn't exactly look the part right now. Because when she came in with her life savings, ready to take on the world. But it didn't turn out to be what she hoped for. She couldn't start work immediately. She wasn't employed in her field. She didn't have Canadian experience. She ran through her savings and now reality hits and she needs to put food on the table. So she takes this crash course and now she is more security. She doesn't exactly look like what Calgary needs. Even she herself at this point is not sure who she is anymore. She's not sure her potential anymore. So Calgary doesn't see her and she doesn't see her place. Where do we go from here? Reskill Calgary. The intention here, the plan is to bring Calgary together to meet Maria. So for Calgary, we want to help remove the blinders. And for Maria, we want to help her to look the part. Because from personal experience, there's something that happens in your psyche when you come in with a lot of excitement and then the system kind of rejects you. It affects your mental outlook. So that is why there needs to be a kind of a mediation that bridges that gap, that closes the divide that exists right now in the pool of talented immigrants we already have in Calgary that we are not tapping to the fullest. For sure, we need more resources from all over, but there is a ton of gold that we are sitting on right now that we are not maximizing. And that is exactly what Reskill Calgary, the problem Reskill Calgary plans to solve. Reskill Calgary is an ecosystem builder designed to help channel highly skilled immigrants, especially those who already have STEM backgrounds, into tech careers. And how will this be done? How can we help Maria? So let's walk through Maria's journey again, this time around, with Reskill Calgary as a partner. So Maria comes in, she gets one-on-one coaching, which helps, as I was saying earlier, in terms of mental blocks, a lot of time when you feel held back, when people are held back, it's not an intellectual problem. It's mostly mental and systemic. That is why people need help. Because usually you can just say, why can't they just retrain? Why can't they just go back to school? Yes, people do that. But here the goal is integration, not just education. So education, then integration. That's how we build a robust economy, a robust community. So one-on-one coaching, which will work with each person to help them, look at what their experience has been over the years. And then as a result of that, they come up with a personalized career map. And this coaching is not just surface job search or how to write a resume kind of coaching. It's more of working with each person to unearth their own uniqueness and then use that to channel them to the right tech training, because there's a lot in tech. It's not just one thing, right? So you want people to have a sustained motivation. If they work with a coach to arrive at their goal, then motivation will be there. And then the second part of that is to do the actual technical training. Now here, the Reskill Calgary, the goal is not to start another institution that teaches people how to code. We have a lot of those who are great. Reskill Calgary is more like a triage center, like this hub where people come in and they are channeled to the right resource they need in terms of developing talent. And the third part of that, which is also very important, it is the experiential learning that comes from taking an internship with a tech company, which will be a partner. There are a lot of reskilling programs around, and a lot of them, they finish the training and then hope to get a placement for internship. But in this case, that will be like it will be an upfront goal. We want to have commitment from the community, from companies that will sign a social contract and say, bring it on. When you have participants, we will take them on as interns. For this to work, that is how it needs to be. And of course, the last point of that is at no cost, because if the goal is integration, we don't want to put any more barriers, right? And what we hope to be the outcome of this is that Calgary can actually attract people, and you know, there's a lot that can be said about word of mouth. When people know that immigrants do well in Calgary, they will come and they will choose to stay here. There's a lot of good things going on for us already. We just need to put that icing on the cake so that people will choose to stay in Calgary. As a matter of fact, anecdotally for me, there have been people I know, new immigrants, who would rather not settle in Alberta anymore, because the news they heard is that the glory days are over. But here we are in Calgary, we're trying to rewrite that story, and we need to do something about it. Another outcome is to make sure people are actually empowered. So on one hand, we are building the economy, we're building a robust Calgary. At the same time, we want people to be empowered, for immigrants to feel like they are living the best life they can, especially considering all they had to let go of to come here. People burn their life savings to come here. So it's a big deal. And then lastly, during Calgary Innovation Week in November, something that came up when Rainforest Alberta was sharing the scorecard, something that was a recurrent theme, was how the tech community is perceived from the rest of the Calgary community. Like, it's secluded, it's for this elite group of people, and we want to correct that. So we want to make sure that it's, you know, for something to be available doesn't necessarily mean it's accessible. So it's available. We can say, oh, it's everything is open to the public, but the accessibility is still the problem. Why do people feel they are not welcome? We want to dissolve all those silos and build an inclusive and robust innovation ecosystem in Calgary. And just to piggyback on that, talking about Calgary, I'm sure we know that I'm not talking about City Council here. I'm talking about the collective Calgary economy. I'm talking about people on this call. I'm talking about you. Taking the blinders off to see the immigrant skill set that are not being utilized. And if you are Maria at this point and you feel like, where do I belong here? This is for you too, so that we can help you look the part, so that you actually look like what Calgary needs. And here's our ask at this point. This is at the very early stage. All of this started this fall. So this is very early, and I am not techie. I'm a tech enthusiast. I'm not a tech specialist, so I could use all the help I could get in terms of tech support, in terms of maintaining the website. I mean, I took some courses. I did HTML, CSS courses, and I have an idea. I can update a website, but I can't build one from scratch just yet. So I need help with that. And very importantly is the aspect of commitment from existing tech companies, even startups. Like, just to know, when people know that when I finish this training, I will actually get to practice at an actual company. It changes the narrative for people. And then coaches too. We need coaches for, in terms of the working with people one-on-one to help them map their own path. We could use the help of the community for that. Ecosystem collaboration, ideas for funding, because this, as I mentioned earlier, needs to be funded for the participants. So that creates a lot of challenge in terms of funding the program itself and funding the participants. So I'm open to ideas of how this can be done, because the world of grants right now is so complicated. A lot of things are being cut down. So that's a challenging space. And just support, like, you want to pitch in one way or the other, please reach out to me. And I created a meetup group just recently called Immigrant Techies Alberta. So this is designed to serve different purposes, like a focus group for the people that this is going to serve. And at the same time, to just get people together and hear what the real challenges are and just create that community. It's another way of people to know we belong here. So if you want to support that group, join and be a member. You want to attend some of the events and give people the resources they might need, that would be very welcome. And I'll just end with this quote. Sometimes change, innovation, transformation doesn't actually require more horsepower. Sometimes all we need to do is to unlock the parking brake. Thank you for your time. You can reach me here. I'm sure Jeff will make sure that information is available. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Wumi. That's great. A really important initiative to help out the tech ecosystem, as well as the immigrants and newcomers to the country. So third in line, we'll have Tim and Yin. Take it away, Tim.
Hey everyone, did you know that periodically PowerPoint doesn't work? So I'm gonna share my screen, and yeah, my PowerPoint just crashed. We'll see how long that takes to fix. So I am here. I'm not sure if you can see me, but thank you so much for tuning in. You probably can't see me yet. Very good.
So, so Tim, I do have a copy of your deck if you're still having trouble, but
yeah, give me just 2 seconds.
Okay. Talk about Murphy's Law, eh?
Talk about Murphy's Law. Wow. Let me actually. You know what, Jeff? I might need you. I might take you up on that.
Or do you want the last group to go and then you come on at the end? Is that going to be
sure?
helpful?
That actually would be even better if they're ready for it.
Sure.
Yeah, it's just strange.
So Matthew, Ryan, and Erica, are you guys ready to go?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Thanks so much.
Let's get back to the start here. All right. Ryan, Erica, ready to rock?
Let's do it.
All right. Well, awesome. It's great to meet everyone, all you Black Squares out there. Really great to spend Tuesday evening with you. We are Faces of Valor, Memory Anchor Incorporated. With me today are Ryan and Erica. Yeah, we're so pleased to be here. Just a quick agenda to give you a preview of what we'll be talking about tonight. I'll just do some quick introductions and kind of chat through our goals for tonight. That should read tonight because it is the evening. A little bit about us, and then we'll give you a preview of kind of the data and geospatial challenges that we're working through as an organization. and then kind of the big ask and closing, and then we'll hand it back to Tim. So introductions. I'm Matthew Cudmore, co-founder alongside Ryan. I'm a Calgary born and bred. I come from a totally varied background. I've worked in everything from video games to M&A consulting, to technology project management, that sort of thing. So when I heard one of my good friends, Ryan, was working on this awesome project called Faces of Valor, wanted to know more. Eventually he popped a question and I became co-founder. So that was all really exciting. The ring was really big. So that was quite an honor to be working alongside him and to be working alongside him. On a personal note, you might have seen a little bit of a military theme to tonight's presentation. What we're building, and we'll get into it a little bit, has to do with commemoration and with veterans. And so from a personal standpoint, this project is, or this organization is really important to me. I have granddads and great granddads that served in the First and Second World War and the British and Canadian forces. So this project is all about bridging generations and telling stories about veterans. Ryan, I'll hand it over to you.
Great, thanks, Matt. Yeah, so hi. I come from a bit of a varied background. Actually, I spent the first about 15 years of my career working in the human service field. So born and raised Calgarian as well. Worked with several youth serving agencies here in town. Used to manage a homeless facility for the Calgary John Howard Society. Did that for a few years before going to Alberta Health Services, where I worked as a youth addiction counselor for several years. Now I do leadership consulting with Alberta Health, is what I do as my day job. I also spent 9 years as a combat engineer in the Canadian Armed Forces Reserves. And like Matt, come from a very steeped military history and such. So I'll be talking a little bit more about the genesis here in a sec, but I'll let Erica introduce herself.
Hey everyone, odd woman out here. I am not from Calgary. I am based out of Washington, D.C. I met Matt and Ryan through a contact sales form. I work for Mapbox, which is the mapping technology company that works in partner with Memory Anchor. They wrote in, asked a little bit about Mapbox, and they haven't been able to get rid of me since. A lot of what we do is work together to help bring these stories that we're going to talk a little bit more about to life. And I'm really honored and happy to be here.
Figure out where the mute button is. Thanks, Erica. Thanks, Ryan. So we'll just run quickly through goals. So we were hoping to, oh, my camera shut off. It is Murphy's Law tonight. There we go. So our goals were to meet the community, share a little bit more about what we're working on, and kind of talk through some of our data challenges and hopefully get some of your ideas on different ways to tackle the issues we're encountering. So at a glance, we're a veteran-founded, veteran-dedicated social enterprise headquartered right here in Calgary. And Faces of Valor is the name for our first product. So it's a veteran-focused mobile app. We're funded by friends and family. We were recipients of an Epic Mega Grant. After launch, we'll be leaning on a Patreon community and a little bit of SaaS with client government agencies. So our pilot sites are in our nation's capital in Ottawa, here in Calgary at Burnsland and Union Cemetery, and then just outside of London, the United Kingdom. And Ryan, I'll just throw it to you to talk a little bit about how all this got started.
Yeah, so I think the genesis of the project's important to talk about. So like I said, my great grandfathers were both in the First World War. My grandfather's Second World War. My mom and dad met in the Army, and so there's been a real important focus on commemoration in our family. 3 years ago, I had the opportunity to go to Vimy Ridge, the centennial of that battle. In that, though, I had done a project where I took wood from something called the Vimy Oaks, which were basically acorns taken from the Battle of Vimy Ridge and planted in Canada after the battle, and they grew for about 100 years. And I took these flutes all over France, Belgium, Holland, and I played Amazing Grace at different grave sites. In the top right corner, you see me kneeling at a grave of an officer named James Coster. And he was just a young officer. And before going into a battle, he had turned to his friend and said, after the war, I want to find a quiet road somewhere and sit there and be a friend of man. And he was killed going into that battle. And that really stood with me. And I made a point to go play at his grave. When I finished playing, though, this was in Grosbeak Cemetery. I looked out and there's 3,000 graves around me. And I thought about 3 of my friends I lost in Afghanistan. And really hit me there is that, you know, Coster and all of these men and women, you know, they're just like us. They have stories that are so meaningful, but we can't connect to them. There's so much more than just a name on a gravestone. And that's where the idea of using geospatial technology, augmented reality, and a very solid backend to bring these databases together so that when somebody's standing on these sites, that their physical location becomes the actual search engine, and that we're pulling rich media so they can see the faces of the soldier, they can see a bio, they can learn a little bit about who they are. In that last slide, you saw me standing beside a veteran named Willie McGregor, and I stood beside him in that same cemetery. He fought from D-Day +2 on, and his brother was killed at the end of the war, and that's him at his brother's grave. And really, when he dies, that memory of his brother goes with him. And so Matt and I firmly believe that, and Erica, that right now we can do remembrance better than any time in our history. A lot of people are afraid that we're forgetting. We firmly believe that, you know, we have this opportunity right now with technology and passion to make it memorable and last, and start bridging generations as well. So I'll hand it back to you, Matt. Mute.
Classic. I'm
Classic.
used to be unmuted. I'm always talking. So here's some pretty pictures for you to look at. So from left to right, you get a sense of what the app does, and it's sort of its key features. And so the whole goal of the application is for you to meet a soldier that's buried at your feet using your smartphone. And so you can be navigated to a soldier, you can meet a soldier, you can read their biography, you can see a photograph, that sort of thing. And since it's a data focused audience, I included some data elements on the right hand side. What you're seeing on the visuals are biography, date of birth, date of death. There's some data visualization, and then on the far left there where you can see the bubbles, some data filtering where you can sort and filter based on maybe the age of the casualty, what unit they served with, what country they served with, and then also some tagging. So if they served in a certain unit, if they served in a certain conflict or a certain country, we can tag a soldier with those tags. And we'll see if the slide will advance. There we go. From top left, you'll see a familiar face there, Erica, with Mapbox. And we're so lucky to have a constellation of these amazing advisors that know so much more than what we know. We have a handful of Googlers looking, they're working in the augmented reality space, privacy, some folks from Ancestry, Marvin with Facebook Reality Labs. Marvin is a USMC, so a Marine Corps, served in Desert Storm. Peter is with the Commonwealth War Graves Commission, Scott's with Veterans Affairs Canada, and in the bottom right is Mark and Rory, who are a historian and an executive curator at the Calgary Museums, military museums. So they're keeping us honest on the history side of things. So in terms of where we're at and where we're hoping to go, so we're currently collaborating with Veterans Affairs Canada, with Commonwealth War Graves Commission, and Beechwood. Veterans Affairs Canada should be a familiar name. They look after veterans here in the country. The Commonwealth War Graves Commission was founded by King George V in First World War, and they're responsible for the First and Second World War dead of the Commonwealth nations. Beechwood is our national military cemetery. It's the Arlington of Canada. And from here, we're hoping to branch out to other English-speaking nations, and then ultimately translating into other languages as well, because it's important that every country is commemorating their own veterans. So challenges, why we're all here. We have, shocker, we have data quality questions. So we have multiple data sources, which I'll get into in the next slide. And some of them are really old. They're all digitized, thank goodness. But it's structured data, but it's not perfect. So that's point number one. Number two, I'll hand to Erica, and number three as well.
Yeah, so kind of adding on to that with the data quality, map quality, it gets a little tricky when you're dealing with these hand-drawn, not exactly accurate, not web-friendly maps that currently exist of a lot of these locations, trying to think about how we get that onto the map itself and how do we tie the data to that information. And for number three, the lat long versus the OCR math, how do we make it scalable to find where all of these people are if we are working from these hand-drawn maps? How do we know the lat long? How are we appropriately locating them? Because right now, what we're currently doing, we'll get into this a little bit, is it's a bit manual.
Thanks, Erica. And then just overall bringing it all together, because there are multiple data sources. I'm not a data guy, but I have a little bit of experience with ETL, bringing kind of multiple data sources, joining them together, merging them together, deciding what data to accept and what data to reject. But I think we need to do we could do a better job of this and have a more automated process. So that's what that point is addressing. And just to give you an example, so Beechwood is the National Military Center here in Calgary, cemetery here in Ottawa, I'm sorry. And so we're working with them to map their site. So today it's manual, there's no APIs. We're working primarily with data dumps and files shared over email, that sort of thing. So we could, in the future, we would hope to get to a place where we have automated jobs. There may still be some data dumps, and ideally there'd be an API.
Yeah, and I believe there's going to be a question and answer period afterwards.
Yeah, sorry, I thought that was you, Jeff, telling me I ran out of time.
Keep going, Matt.
Yeah. And I'll just throw it to Erica for this one. Unless people want me to go into detail on the CSVs and stuff, but I don't think anybody wants to hear that at this point. So I'll just skip over that.
Yeah, so to go a little bit further into how we're currently finding locations, we're using GPS, lat long, and Mapbox AR. Currently, how it works is Matt, Ryan, or myself will go and try to find the actual lat long of each individual headstone. And then adding that to a CSV, moving that forward. Ideally, what we want to do is use some fuzzy location from GPS, whether it's telemetry coming off of a user, confirmation through Mapbox AR, or OCR or user input, moving forward to make it a bit less manual on our side.
Yeah. It's a lot of work, isn't it? Some late nights.
I like our
This is busy.
It is great, yeah. Yeah, so to recap, we've seen this slide before, but to recap, it's data quality, it's map quality, it's that lat long versus OCR and math question, and then the ETL process. So sort of the ask and kind of how we were thinking we would frame this is we have a beautiful site over in the United Kingdom called Brookwood Cemetery. It's owned and operated by the Commonwealth War Graves Commission. Some lovely folks work there. We were hoping ideally if there are a few individuals in the crowd that would be interested in helping to tackle an automated process to kind of figure this out. If you have experience working with multiple data sources and geospatial, that would be incredible. And if we could explore a way to to tackle these together, we'd be so grateful. And ideally, we could use this as an operating model to then go out and map more sites worldwide so that we can tell more veteran stories. So that's it. That's us and what we're doing. We'll leave you with a quote. I will not try to pronounce the individual's name. My Polish is terrible. I apologize. But a beautiful, beautiful quote. The living owe it to those who no longer can speak to tell their story for them. So if you are interested in joining the mission, Ryan's email is there. My email is there. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you so much, and we really appreciate it. It's really been a passion project, and we firmly believe that this can be making a significant difference in how we remember. And anybody who's willing to to offer some thoughts or anything. Our driving force is we'd rather try and fail than not have tried at all, because it's really the least we can do for these fallen. So thanks so much.
Great. Well, thanks to you, Matthew and Ryan and Erica. It's really valuable work that you're doing. And yeah, I mean, there's a long way to go, but one or two at a time, that's what it takes, right? Keep the ball rolling. Great. So if you can stop sharing your screen there, Matthew, that would be good. And then Tim, if you are ready, you can kind of take it over. A reminder that the presentation decks will be available on the meetup site tomorrow. There'll be a link to the presentation decks with all the contact information, so you can send an email to the folks that are speaking with you this evening. So,
Okay,
Tim, take it away.
can everyone see can you see it now?
Yep.
Excellent. Okay, cool. Sorry about that. Never had that specific problem before, which is what makes computers so exciting, is they keep finding new ways to keep us on our toes as living organisms. So I'm gonna quickly run through a bit of our story. We started about a year ago as an organization called Beaver Lodge. We are intent on finding a way for introverts to solve climate change. Presented at Civic Tech about that back in May with the app we built, some of the lessons we were learning, kind of the direction we were heading in. And long story short, we decided that the app we built as a game for people to do self-guided energy audits of their house wasn't the right idea. And we tested that with doing a crowdfunding campaign, with actually building and launching an app and seeing how users interacted with it. And I did a bunch of surveys in my immediate community to find out, is this really an interest area? Why or why not? And it was a hard decision to make to essentially cancel the app. But what it did do is it opened us up to, I think, an even more exciting opportunity, which is what I'm going to tell you about now. The website is inonit.ca. Don't go there, because then you won't listen to me talk. First of all, I want to start off with a quick question, and I've maximized the chat so I can, or the screen, so I can see you all when you raise a hand or give a thumbs up. Jeff, is the thumbs up or hand thing, I think it's available, right? I mean, if you hit the more button, you should be able to give me a hands or thumbs up for which of these items you bought this week. First, I'll go with fruit. Give me a thumbs up if you bought fruit this week. I see one. Okay, let's say that's 20 people. Give me a thumbs up if you bought milk this week. Okay, again, roughly 20, 25 people at least. Give me a thumbs up if you bought eggs this week. So that is closer to 15. And give me a thumbs up if you bought bread this week. I'd say that's about 17 and a half or so. Now, the second question, of course, is how many of those of you who bought any of those things, how many of you bought it with your neighbors? Did any of you go out and buy something with your neighbors? I see 2 people with thumbs up, which is incredible. Usually it's about 0. And that's really puzzling in some ways if you think about it, because we have, in all likelihood, about 50% of the groceries you buy every week are the same or very similar to what everyone on your street buys. And when we're trying to solve big problems such as climate change, any kind of source of efficiency we can create around common consumer problems is incredibly valuable. And that's kind of what our company has evolved to focus on, is facilitating the process of sourcing common needs together for neighbors. Some of the justification for it and kind of besides the customer interviews, the reason why this is so important to me and why I think it has a lot of legs is because of how life itself works. If any of you are looking for fantastic, informative reading that touches a broad variety of disciplines and has significant importance to everyday life, I'd highly recommend the book Scale by Jeffrey West. And essentially what it does is it talks about some of the universal laws that apply to growth, life, innovation, and sustainability. If I was to ask you how many calories are consumed by an eagle versus a hummingbird, you'd obviously know that the eagle consumes way less calories than a hummingbird. But what you might not know is that relative to its weight and its size, a hummingbird consumes way more calories than an eagle. And that's kind of a fundamental part of life itself is bigger things, bigger living organisms are more efficient with their calories than smaller living organisms, which is why elephants live longer than mice. And it's one of those things that is universal across almost every single living organism. Interestingly enough, except for cities. And that's one of the tension points I feel as a society we're struggling with when it comes to sustainability is we've built these incredible structures, these incredible organizations, these incredible places, but we haven't figured out how to make them really alive. And by alive, I mean, as they grow bigger, they become actually more efficient. And that might be I think once you crack that nut, we'll have simultaneously gotten a lot closer to a mathematical definition for life, but also maybe even gotten a lot closer to finding out what life even is. That's kind of the theoretical justification. I'm really a nerd. I like to talk about that kind of physics, economics stuff. In a nutshell, the way we do that is we build software that helps where it counts. And Yin's going to talk a little bit about her experience building with me over the last month and a half. But essentially what our software is doing is makes it easy for neighbors who have common needs in an area. They use our app. Those needs get pushed to a local mom who's kind of like the delivery mafia for her neighborhood. She goes to farmers, picks up the supplies in bulk, collates it as if people collate flyer delivery and delivers it to neighbors. And then we go through another cycle, as many cycles as possible, knowing that each cycle we do is neighbors connecting over common needs, so building community, but it's also decreasing the emissions for every single food item in that bundle. Yin, do you want to share?
Thank you, Tim. So what I prepared is a learning journey for myself. So back in this year, April, I was still a stay-at-home mom with 2 boys and knowing nothing about coding. Then I joined the fast-track software developer program and started learning all sorts of coding languages in just 5 months. So transitioning from an accountant to a software developer was not easy for me. I was struggling with the program, but luckily had a group of teammates willing to help and support me all along the way. Then I joined Tim for his amazing project. We used Bubble for this project. Bubble is another new app for me to learn. And in this beginning, I was just following the steps in YouTube to build all the functions until one day I found out YouTube doesn't always help me to build all the functions we need. And then Tim started to help me understand the whole picture behind the logic and all the workflow. So our brain thinks workflows all the time without even realizing it. Some workflows are easy to understand, like how to put the milk into a fridge. First, you open the fridge door. Second, you put your milk in. Then third, last step is you close your fridge door. That is easy workflow. How about the hard workflow, like clicking a button and automatically save all the records into the database? Bubble in a way helped me to straight out all the logic behind each step without thinking the coding part. And the logic is the most important part to communicate with the computer. I'm glad finally I know how to think like a robot and how to set a command to a robot. And this is my learning journey about me. I'm still in my journey to be a data analyst, and the future is good. And I'm really looking forward for the future. And the most important thing I learned from Tim is all for one and one for all. We are in this community together. Thank you.
Thanks, Yin. You said a lot of nice things. To be clear, everyone, I just said, oh, can you share a little bit about your experience? But thank you so much, Yin. If anyone is actually looking for a data analysis to work with, Yin's been incredible to work with. We've only worked together over the last 8 weeks, and it's been a really good experience. The traction we've gotten up until now with our prototype is roughly 250 trust actions, and a trust action, as we define it, is anytime neighbors coordinate together on a purchase. That has been over $8,000 in revenue, and it actually should be closer to 8 months. Our pilot started with roughly around the time of the lockdown with COVID, and we've generated over 20 plus team learnings to get us I call it a early prototype, or a second prototype, that is essentially a web app people can access, and we're rolling it out to our user base as soon as we go through the next round of changes. The main thing we're looking for is we've kind of realized that we want to build this as much as possible by using people who want to learn how to code. And that kind of arose when I was working on it myself, and then someone told me, hey, can you give Yin an internship? And I thought, sure, why not? I've tried that before. It's been challenging, but let's try it again. And it actually worked really well this time. But in order to facilitate the process of giving more and more neighbors bulk discounts, we realized that there's thousands of systems we need to learn. And the way we're breaking that down is we're doing 8-week sprints that involve no-code coding, data science, and UX design. The criteria we're looking for people who either are a parent, because or the other parent, or they're part of their community association member. Just because we really need people who are invested in their local communities so they can understand the dynamics of actually how to build something to facilitate needs collaboration with neighbors. If you go to our website, inonit.ca, you can use the code CivicTech to get into the test version. And you have to click through it onto the second page, type the code in, it's case sensitive, and click the word in, and you should be able to get in. That's everything I have. I look forward to your questions.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Tim and Yin. Just another great example. We've had 4 great examples this evening of really innovative, thoughtful ideas that just show really what's happening in Calgary, and the great ideas are being generated, and the energy that folks are putting into these social good startups. So a reminder that you'll get the presentation decks. If you want to respond and offer your help to any of the startups, you can do that by reaching out to them directly. A bit of a chance here for some questions or comments if you want. Please put them into the deck. If you want to speak to your question, just put a Q, the letter Q in the chat, and then I can unmute you and you can ask your question directly. So just to kind of get the ball rolling, I'm just wondering if each of the groups could just sort of give an example of something that's really surprised you about Calgary and the people that you've met, and story either positive or negative, right? About reception you've got, and some of the challenges, but some of the opportunities that you've faced in building your startup. So we'll go to Kyle first, and recognizing, Kyle, that you're actually in Red Deer, but you kind of go back and forth, right?
Yeah, that's no problem. And I was thinking, well, I'm not from Calgary, but actually, since I've started in this program, and since I met you, I've talked to I talk to Calgarians like every other day. So I'm part of the Rainforest, which is Libby Fund, and they're through their teaching and their support. Like this idea has become so much more tangible, and just speaking with you as well, Jeff, and just being in touch with people of such high caliber. Yeah, that's the best way that I can state it is my dream is becoming tangible through the generosity and support of really good people. So I just all the best things to say. So,
Great, that's great. It's good that that's happening, and that's a sign of a healthy ecosystem, right? Where that people are helping themselves out and that sort of thing. And really, if folks here have not heard about Rainforest, the Rainforest organization, you can go to rainforestab.ca. All the information is there, but it's a great networking place where you can go and meet other people that are doing similar things, and a lot of resources there as well. I'd also encourage you to follow Platform Calgary. So this is the emerging or the previous Calgary Technologies organization, and announced today that Startup Calgary is actually being rolled into Platform Calgary. There's that new building that's being built across from the across 9th Avenue from the Central Library. It's going to be an amazing innovation space, a place for connections as well. So look that up in your journey as well. But how about you, Wumi? What has surprised you?
Well, I share Kyle's sentiments because I am part of Rainforest Alberta myself, and I also took part in the Libby Fund, which, you know, when it was all in my head, it was safe. Like I could either do something with it or not. But then when I started actually talking about it, it became both exciting and scary at the same time, because I kept scaring myself. So I'll go, okay, now that you've said it, you have to do it. Like there's the accountability, and there's no pressure really. People are just there to support. And I was really, really blown away by how much willing people are to actually invest time and their resources. Somebody that's actually in Edmonton just kind of took me on and said, every month, just tell me your updates. So it's been so amazing that people are willing to help. They're so open. And that's another thing that kept driving me to continue on this. So like, why doesn't the rest of Calgary work like this? Like, why is this a micro culture within Calgary? Why is it not mainstream? Because I've been in Calgary for 9 years, and I've not enjoyed this kind of synergy with other people. So I just want that to be a more mainstream experience for other Calgarians.
Great observation. So Matthew, Ryan, Erica, any comments on surprises, either positive or negative?
Definitely lots of positive to say. The startup community in Calgary has been really great. Hearing their feedback on what we're working on. Last year, we had a group of angels help us with a pitch before we went down to Google in California, which was super helpful. And then fast forward to this year, we shared our story a little bit with Calgary Economic Development and the City of Calgary Living Labs, and the reception here in town has been awesome. And Calgary Economic Development was instrumental in getting us connected to some media as well, which was fantastic to see. just complete strangers emailing us just about their personal stories and their connections to their to their family and the veterans that they served. Yeah. Ryan.
Yeah, and I think that's something that's surprised me too. Is just definitely how Calgary economics got right in behind us. But there's been several people that's reached out and said, hey, I have this family member in Burns Land and such like that. And the way the media had grabbed it, it really gave us, a lot of reach. And as a result, a lot of people have been coming up. And I mean, this doesn't directly answer your question, but I'm going to add it, is what actually surprises us too is the amount of history in our grave sites. When you look at Burns Land Cemetery and you just start going in and looking at the people who are buried there and their stories, they are inspiring, they are sad, but it's really a beautiful thing to uncover these things. And we can't wait to really share that with Calgarians as we make tours of Union Cemetery, Burns Land Cemetery, Queen's Park, and all those places where our veterans are buried.
Great. Right. Tim, surprises.
I think kind of actually one of the big surprises I've been in the social enterprise space, before that auditing, and then before that international development. One of the big surprises that I've really I realize again and again is actually just how few real problems there are in Canada specifically. And COVID was actually an example of a really big global problem. And I'm always surprised by how great our country is. And that's partially to the credit of some of the great veterans who've fought for us in the past. So I think that's probably been one of the freshest surprises for me, is someone who's tried to build a life solving all the problems to kind of step back and realize actually things are pretty great here. And yes, there's always room to improve, but it's from a place of knowing that things are also, most of the problems we face today are problems that our grandparents would laugh at. So yeah.
Right. That's true. In the grand scheme of things, we have it pretty good. So, well, I think that's a good note to finish up on. I want to thank everyone for your really inspiring presentations, but obviously not just the presentations, but all the putting your heart and your soul into these ideas, into innovation and entrepreneurship, and that's really going to drive us into the future here in Calgary. And I would encourage you, all to be on the call this evening, and to consider the organizations, find a way to help, reach out to the various organizations, and let's all do our part to try to make Calgary and Alberta and Canada a better place to live. So with that, good night. Thanks a lot, and we'll see you at the next meetups, which will be in January 2021. Good night.